BSN's Motoring 96 is brought to you by Quaker State. Exceeds the highest standards for engine protection. And Midas, the way it should be.
This week we find ourselves at the Goodyear Proving Grounds in St. Angelo, Texas. Now, this proving ground, without a doubt, is the most extensive tire testing center anywhere in North America. Now, they do a lot of testing here, and of course, I'm standing on the track, and as you can see, there's a rather large tire testing going underway right now, so I better make this quick. Now, the reason we're here is that Goodyear is introducing a brand new tire. And they tell us this new tire comes with a lifetime warranty, and Goodyear apparently is the first tire manufacturer to offer such a guarantee.
When the Gemini 4 astronauts were orbiting the Earth in 1965, they spotted a large circle in the middle of the Texas desert. Unable to identify it, they took a picture.
And they couldn't figure out what it was, and they thought they had really discovered something. And of course, what it was the 5-mile circle that we used to do our high-speed testing on. And being a facility like we are, we don't advertise a lot about what we do here, so they didn't know that that circle was part of the Goodyear Proving Grounds.
Located in San Angelo, Texas, the Goodyear facility is the largest of its kind in North America. Within the 7,250 acres, Goodyear is able to perform over 250 different tire tests.
Well, the testing of tires has changed over the years. I think today we're going more and more to computer evaluations, to shorter-term tests that can be married in with computer modeling. So testing has changed a lot. The other thing that's changed an awful lot is that when your father was running those retreads, he was running on a tire that had probably was expecting to get 10,000 miles. And of course today that's 10,000 miles of tires just getting broke in. So yeah, things have changed a lot. And of course you've seen the advertisements where you'll see a tire footprint running through water. And that's what we do. We'll run it at 2 miles per hour, which gives us a no hydroplaning situation. And then we'll run it through that water at various speeds to determine how much hydroplaning that particular tire might have. The outdoor dynamometers are used to determine how durable a tire is. They just put them on this machine and they run them and run them and run them and run them until they fail and see how far they go.
Goodyear selected the proving grounds to introduce a new tire with an unprecedented warranty. The tire is called the Infinitread, and it comes with a lifetime warranty.
You've got a variety of buyers. You've got the economy buyers that are looking for basically a tire for cost. You've got the performance people that drive the Corvettes and those type of vehicles. And then you have we call it the quality buyer, who just is looking for good value, good price. And in the Canadian market, generally the warranties being offered are a workmanship material type warranty, which is for manufacturer defects. And the average mileage type warranty has been between 5 and 6 years coverage. What Goodyear is going to do on this new tire, we're going to warrant the tire for the consumer for as long as he owns a vehicle. The average consumer now, we're finding, with the cost of vehicles, is maintaining a vehicle 5, 6, and even up to 7 years in length. So as long as they own that vehicle, we will warrant the tire for the tread life. And basically for the first 3 years, if the tread life prematurely wears, we will cover the tire and replace it free of cost. And the most a consumer will ever pay beyond that 3 years for the full life is half cost for a tire, basically 50%.
Like, what's the best advice you could give people when they do buy a new tire?
Well, the best advice I could give them is to buy a Goodyear tire, of course. But the consumer should look at what they're buying in terms of a tire. I mean, are they interested in and a lot of consumers are concerned primarily with mileage. The advice I would give you is that tires today, all of them get very good mileage. So I'd look beyond mileage in some cases to the tractive capability of the tire as well. And what you really want is a tire that will give you long mileage and good traction. So you should look at both mileage and traction when you're out looking for a new tire.
Now, minivans and excitement aren't two words that usually go together.
This is the minivan for people who wouldn't be caught dead in a station wagon. Here it is.
2 feet of snow and the wide open beauty of British Columbia means one thing. Yes, you've guessed it, we're going to be taking a look at a sport utility vehicle this week. It's the 1996 Toyota 4Runner, a vehicle that Toyota have high hopes for. So high, in fact, that they hope to vault themselves back to being the #1 import sport utility in Canada.
Ever since its introduction, the 4Runner has had a number of things against it. Primarily, there was never enough power. Well, at long last, the power issue has been addressed, and effectively so. The base engine remains a 4-cylinder unit, however it now produces as many horses as the old V6. The big news is the addition of the strong 3.4-litre V6 utilised in the Tacoma and T100. The output of this engine ranks right up there with any other unit available, including some V8s. Horsepower is rated 183 and torque at 217 pounds-feet. The bonus being that it shows up for work at a healthy 3600 RPM. Not only does this give the 4Runner a nice broad power band, it also offers a smooth idle and better initial launch, both highly desirable assets.
Well, it's out with the old, this old-fashioned distributor. This has gone the way of the dinosaur, and in with the new. This is direct ignition. Basically what it does, it places the coil directly over the spark plug. You get a much more efficient spark. The other thing on this V6 engine, they run a plug wire from this to the opposing bank of the V6 to fire that plug on the exhaust stroke. This keeps the platinum tip plug that much cleaner for that much longer.
Match with either engine is a 5-speed manual or a 4-speed automatic. From my perspective, the unit of choice is the stick, although the latter is sure to be the box of choice. The engine's power is relayed to the road wheels via a part-time 4-wheel drive system. Switching back and forth between the two is easy and can be accomplished on the fly. A further bonus is the rear diff lock. If you're unlucky enough to get stuck, this handy device could mean the difference between getting out and staying there. From a user-friendly perspective, the 4Runner scores very well. First, the step-in height has been lowered to an acceptable level, even if you go with the bigger wheel and tyre package that our tester came equipped with. And it has been done so without sacrificing ground clearance. By raising the mechanicals and lowering the floor, Toyota have in effect squashed the sandwich and reached a happy compromise. The suspension has been reworked to improve on-road ride comfort without sacrificing off-road ability. Up front, the suspension now features double wishbones and coil springs rather than the old torsion bars. This design not only makes the 4Runner more compliant, it works wonders in vehicle stability. Further improving road manners is the new rack and pinion steering. It offers better feedback and faster turn-ins. Perhaps the only drawback with the new package is the placement of the spare tyre. It sits under the truck and in a rather vulnerable spot. If you do any serious off-roading, remove it and chuck it in the back. Stopping power is provided by a power disc drum setup that comes complete with 4-wheel anti-lock brakes. No complaints here whatsoever.
That's the ice floe in the Fraser River making its way down to the ocean. Now we picked this spot to show you the single biggest improvement they've made to the 4Runner. On the old vehicle you had to power the glass down and drop the gate down. Hallelujah, the penny has finally dropped because it now lifts. It makes life so much more easy. The other thing they've done, and I applaud them for doing it, they've left the power down glass, so you can at least drop that down and drop your small stuff in. It's about time, but the penny's finally dropped.
Inside, the 4Runner comes complete with all the right equipment, although the designers still need to learn where to place the radio. As with all other Toyotas, it sits too low down, forcing you to take your eyes off the road if you want to adjust it. The seats, both back and front, are comfortable and offer the required level of support, and the split folding rear seat adds the required versatility to the storage area. On the safety front, the 4Runner features dual airbags, adjustable upper seatbelt anchors, child-proof rear door locks, and of course, anti-lock brakes.
That's it for this test drive, and trust me, I've seen enough snow to last me a lifetime. Now we've focused mainly on the off-road attributes of the new 4Runner. It does highway equally well. Now Toyota are already talking about a V8 engine. Whether it'll see the 4Runner or not is open for debate, but personally I don't think they need it with the new V6. What they do need? A full-time all-wheel drive system.
looking at what they call the carcass tire test here at the Goodyear Proving Grounds in Texas. Now, what they're doing is, rather than testing for the actual tread wear, they're looking at the durability of the body of the tire or the carcass. You may also notice nobody is driving the tractors, and for good reason. When you consider these tractors are driving 24 hours a day, 365 days of the year. Now, they are anchored and monitored by a tether cable, and if anything goes wrong with the load or tire pressure of the engine, the entire operation will shut down. Now, each tractor is worth about $250,000. Life expectancy, about 30,000 driving hours, or about 300,000 miles. All right, now let's head to the garage and join Bill Gardner.
Hey Brad, my very first summer job was with Goodyear, cleaning up tires at the new car show at Moss Park Armory around the end of August. My dad worked for the company for 30 years and he got me the job. Now this week I want to talk about something a little bit different than tires, and that's belt tensioning systems. I want to show you how they work, what the pluses and the minuses are. Here's the belt tensioner right here. Inside this housing there's a pretty substantial spring coil, and this housing is pinned to the bracket behind it. The tensioner has an arm on it that comes down and drives that smooth pulley into the back side of the belt to automatically tighten that belt at all times. Now, if you remember on the older cars, you used to loosen the alternator, power steering pump, or whatever the driven device was, and you actually pried it over with a screwdriver or pry bar, moved its position, and then locked the bolt down to tension the belt. With this system, you don't need to do that, and one belt can run all accessories. This particular belt happens to go around 8 different pulleys. Similar to other springs used in an automobile, the belt tensioner has a spring inside this housing here that's coiled up and applying the tension that you see right now to the belt. So in order to change the belt or work on any of these devices or pulleys that are driven by the belt, we've got to relieve the tension from the tensioner and pop the belt off. Now you let the tensioner go gradually, making sure that you don't get your fingers caught between the wrench and something sharp. Once all the tension's off it, you can work on any one of these devices or the tensioner. Now the things that most commonly go wrong with these tensioners are, first of all, the spring breaking in here, in which case the belt goes slack and flips off. You've got to replace the entire tensioner in that case. Also, the bearing that's inside of this pulley on the tensioner, because of all that pressure I mentioned on the spring, the bearing will eventually fail. Now, contrary to what most people will tell you, you can replace, in many cases, you can replace the bearing inside that pulley, but you can't get it from the vehicle manufacturer, a dealership, or a jobber. You've got to go to a bearing supply place and get the number off the old bearing. It's a little bit more work, but it saves you a lot of money. If you have to replace the belt tensioner assembly, it's usually an $80 to $100 part plus labor, and in most cases they're pretty easy to replace. Here's one that I just replaced recently off a Pontiac 6000. The bearing's as smooth as silk, not a noise out of it, but the spring has broken inside here in the tensioner, and you can see that it'll hold any position without applying any tension to the belt, so we had to replace it. Now in this particular one, there's a seal on the back that prevents engine coolant loss, and we had to drain the radiator before we could replace it. But like I said, most cases a pretty simple deal to change. Now your first indication that you've got a problem or breakage on this part is usually when the alternator light comes on. The belt has maybe broken or come off, or this tensioner is gone, you've lost the tension on the belt. If you get that situation, pull to the side of the road at the first safe opportunity and assess the situation, because remember, in most cases you've got one belt driving everything. Belt comes off, you lose water pump, engine cooling fan, and you're going to quickly overheat and do some damage. So make sure you check it out as soon as possible. Till next week, I'm Bill Gardner for Motoring 96.
The world's largest automaker has rejoined the battle of the minivans. General Motors selected the New York Auto Show for the world premiere of its line of all-new minivans, a market now dominated by Ford and Chrysler.
The minivan market in Canada is one of the largest growing segments today. It's a huge market, represents a substantial part of our business and the truck business in general. For us at General Motors, with new van, the new venture, and the new transport, it's a great opportunity for us to gain some more market share, but to offer the customer something that is totally new and really refined. Chevrolet, obviously, value, family, those are words that go back to Chevrolet's heritage. You're going to continue to see that I think that Chevrolet has done an excellent job and will provide the Canadian customer with true value that you've come to expect in Chevrolet products. The transport's a little more upscale than Chevrolet Venture, and we're doing that as we separate the brands. You're going to see more of that in the future as the products start to distinguish themselves and the brands start to separate. Pontiac Transport is a different vehicle from Venture from the aspect that you'll see that it's different in trim levels inside. It offers more trim variety than Chevrolet does. Also, the power door is still here, and it will be present with the new van. It is an option, and it is only available on the passenger side, and it's only going to be available on the long wheelbase, at least for 1997. So it's a great option. If we look at the front-wheel drive van segment in Canada and what's offered as standard equipment, Chevrolet and Pontiac will offer an engine that has the most horsepower at 180 in that segment. So we've learned some things from the competitors, we've learned some things from our customers, and I think we're going to have a darn good product. So we're looking forward to bringing this van to market this fall.
It's time to update our long-term Taurus. Now, we've taken this thing in for its first service, and while it was in as a part of a service campaign that's ongoing, Ford replaced the A-pillar door seal. Now, according to them, it's to quieten down a wind noise. From our perspective, it makes absolutely no difference whatsoever. On the inside, there's a bit of a controversy. Brad Diamond hates this fold-out seat. I like it. It houses the cell phone, gives you somewhere for your coffee, but more importantly, it provides you a sixth seat that comes with a seat belt. One final comment, and that's on the fuel mileage. We're averaging better than 9.8 litres per 100 kilometres, which is almost 29 miles per gallon. That is nothing short of outstanding.
Now wait a minute, before we move on, I've got a wee beef with my friend Graham Fletcher. Now Graham just said that yours truly does not like this flip-up console. Well, that's not entirely true. I love the idea, it's the application that bothers me. For instance, if you're like me, you collect things, sunglasses, keys, you've got the charger for the telephone, things you need in an automobile. But if I want to pull the console down, it won't fit unless I find another place for my junk. The only place is the glove compartment. Other than that, I love the Taurus. I've enjoyed driving it, but if I was going to purchase a Taurus, I'd go with the LX model, which gives you a proper floor console.
Unionville, Ontario is known as a shopper's paradise, but on this day the term window shopping took on an entirely new meaning. Attracting all the attention was the Hyundai HCD3, never before seen by North American eyes. Today, Motoring 96's Jim Kenzie became the first and only journalist to drive the car.
We've made the HCD1, HCD2, and now this is the HCD3. We actually call it the Gila. It's an all-wheel drive vehicle. It's a sport utility vehicle with more focus on the sport than utility, certainly. It's a 240 horsepower engine, actually. It's a Hyundai designed engine, and we call it the Beta engine that's in this car, coupled with a four-wheel drive. It's one of a kind. The total cost to put the car together was $1 million. We like to take this car to the shows and see what kind of reaction we'll get from the public. Obviously, what we'd like to do, if the reaction is positive, is go ahead and build a car like this.
Wow.
The interesting feature about this car is at the flip of the switch, this solenoid is activated and puts pressure through the hydraulic lines, which actually raises the car 4 inches for more ground clearance for off-road use. You'll notice the suspension is quite unique. It's very similar to a motorcycle design. The suspension actually travels like this and is attached right here to the front wheels, as you see. There could be a market for this car. In fact, we did some focus groups in California, and this car tested very positively. In fact, our HMA office in California estimates they could sell 50,000 of these vehicles in California already. So it could become a reality. There's no question about that at all.
You know, some concept cars should remain concept cars. My opinion on this one coming up on Kenzies Corner.
Our Midas Tip of the Week concerns fastener torque. You know, there's a saying in the fastener business that an over-torqued fastener is already half broken. You don't want to get any fastener on an automobile too tight, or you'll strip it or break it, or too loose and it could fall off. So it's a good idea to use a torque wrench for anything critical, and most mechanics use them for wheel bolts, engine fasteners, and steering and suspension components. But if you wanted to go to a shop manual, you could find a prescribed torque for almost all fasteners on a car with the exception of trim screws. For many applications, the automotive engineers reduce the hex size of a fastener to force you to use a smaller wrench. General Motors cars and trucks are a perfect example. Their battery terminal bolts for many years have been 5/16 hex. That means a small wrench like that to tighten that battery terminal. Remember that the fastener is going into a lead terminal in the battery. Lead's really soft. It's so soft you can dig it up with your fingernail. Doesn't have to be real tight to make a good connection and hold its torque. What they've done by reducing the head is make you use a smaller wrench, less leverage, less chance to strip that fastener. Here's another perfect example. The oil drain screw used on Ford V8 engines has a 1/2-inch National Fine thread with a 7/8 hex. General Motors on most of their V8s use the same 1/2-inch National Fine thread with the head size reduced down to 9/16, which means a much smaller wrench and less leverage on that fastener. There's the 7/8 wrench you'd use on the Ford, and it's easy to figure out how you can easily get enough twist on that wrench, enough torque to strip the threads on that fastener or in the oil pan if you're not careful. And believe me, it's no coincidence that stripped pans and threads on Ford V8s are pretty commonplace and a rarity on GM. So when you come across those fasteners with the reduced head sizes, think about it for a minute. The engineers were trying to tell you something. That's your Midas Tip of the Week.
Kenzies Corner with Jim Kenzie.
Just think, 10 years ago, Hyundai was building ponies, and now they've got this little Tusker right here. Now, currently there's only one of these in the world. That's the $1 million Hyundai there. But if things go according to plan, a car very much like this could be in showrooms by the year 2000. Now, the people in the United States Hyundai organization are particularly hot on this concept. They figure every surfer in California would have to have one of these. But some people are arguing for a more conventional sport utility to go after Suzuki Samurai or Jeep Cherokee. They'd rather build a skier's 4x4 than a surfer's 4x4, and obviously we're not exactly in surfer country here. But I personally think they should proceed in this direction. If they built a conventional sport utility, they'd be following everybody else into a very crowded market segment. If they built something like this Sport Cute, they'd be leaders right on the front edge of car design. And if you know anything about the Koreans, you know they'd rather be leaders than followers. I'm Jim Kenzie.
Well, we've saved the best for last, and this is the 200-ton X18. And as you can tell, it's testing the big babies. And these tires aren't being tested for tread wear, but rather their temperature. Now, they're 11.5 feet in diameter. They each weigh 7,000 pounds. And if you want to buy one, it's going to cost you $30,000 a tire. Now, that's some kind of tire. Incidentally, the tires are slightly smaller, but you know, all Corvettes come equipped with Goodyear tires. Now, the new generation of Corvettes and the ZR1 are coming without a spare tire. Why, you say? Well, stay tuned, and we'll have that story for you on a future program as we continue to bring you more stories about cars, tires, and the people who drive them.
TSN's Motoring 96 has been brought to you by Quaker State. Exceeds the highest standards for engine protection. And Midas, the way it should be.